Now, would you consider yourself a negotiator? Do you like to drive a bargain? Or are you someone who avoids that conversation completely? Let's say you're in a business situation and the other side tries to, I think it's called lowball you. Do you just cop that? I have to be honest, my hand is kind of in the air. If it sounds like you, the good news is our next guest may have answers you're looking for. Sam Trattles has built a career negotiating for some of the world's biggest companies, including PricewaterhouseCoopers and Credit Suisse. And there's a new book that Sam's got called Negotiate Your Worth. And it has a fun little Aussie twist. Sam Trattles, welcome to Afternoons.
Hi, Luke. Thanks for having me.
Really good to talk to you. The blurb on the book says, become a powerful business negotiator by discovering the characteristics you share with Aussie animals. I have to ask you just to develop that a bit for me.
No problem, yeah. Well, when I set about writing this book, I thought, how do I make, teaching a really dry subject like negotiating fun? So we looked at what are the characteristics of powerful negotiators and then had a little look around and then ended up working with Taronga Zoo on aligning those characteristics to Aussie animals because they're a bit quirky just like I can be. And yeah, so we thought we'd make it a bit of fun like that so people can work out which power animal they align with.
Okay. All right. So what sort of animal is someone who is a little reluctant to get involved in doing a deal?
Yeah, it's interesting because we negotiate all day, every day, even though we don't notice it's happening around us. So there's a point where we naturally get ourselves involved in more negotiations. So, even just finding our voice to say which takeaway that we want as a family when we're deciding on Friday night is a part of a negotiation. So we want to look for those places where you're actually stepping up and finding your voice so that you don't have to avoid it. It doesn't have to be a fight. That's the biggest thing. We can actually find our voice and say what we want without it being adversary.
That's fascinating, that what food to order on a Friday night or a Thursday night or whatever night it is, if you're going to get something from a restaurant delivered. And I find myself in a position with family members, 3 of us adults, 3 of us quite capable, we'd like to think intelligent, but it can come to 90 minutes after the first issue is raised until we find something to agree on, probably because we don't want to offend anyone else or look like we, are running the show. What's wrong with that?
Well, it's because we're such nice people. Australians are, we love, we don't want to upset anybody, so we want to get a great outcome. But, the thing is, the beauty of Uber, that's only $5 for each delivery, so get whatever you want. And then everyone can be happy. But yeah, just at the core of it is because we don't want to upset each other. But we don't have to. We just have to say what we want.
Right. So in that situation, sorry to make it all about me, but it's kind of, I think, about the listeners as well. But so someone says, let's get something in. What do you feel like? What should you answer?
Whatever you actually feel like. Because I know my mum, for example, she'll always say, whatever you girls want, it's fine with me. And it's like, well, no, we want you to be happy too. So it's really about creating an environment where everyone's happy to say what they want. And even if that's Chinese, pizza and Thai, and we all say, well, actually, I don't really feel like pizza at all, so why don't you order a pizza and then I can order, a single dish from the Thai place. So, the thing we really want to encourage is people actually saying what they want in the first place. Right.
And as you say, we do this, or we're faced with this all through the day, but it's very different, isn't it, than deciding what to get from the takeaway as to what you should say to your boss if you're after a few more bucks, or is it?
Well, again, it's the same thing. It's like when we look at our cultural taboos, so when we say what we don't want, people say that we are being difficult. If we say what we do want, we're being pushy. And then when we start to bring in the layer of talking about money, people just get all uncomfortable. So we need to be able to say these things no matter what the consequences are, especially now in the Great Resignation. We don't want to lose good people, so we need to listen to what's important to them and feel that we can actually have those conversations openly and frankly.
So when you're doing some of the big deals you've done, as I mentioned, I think you've negotiated over, what is effectively $500 million worth of deals for different companies over your career. Surely a negotiation, a sizable one, doesn't begin, or does it, with what you want?
It can. Yeah, if we can, depending on the relationship. So some of those deals that I've done, we know that once we sign the deal, we have to stay working together for the next 3 years. There's not a broker doing those deals.
Yeah.
So if we want to have an ongoing relationship, we need to start as we mean to go on. And so sometimes that is, what do you actually need from this deal? Because this is what I actually need from this deal. And then start with an open book or a whiteboard and then go backwards from, we are going to do a deal, and then work it backwards from there. But no, it's not always that easy, and not that that's easy, by the way, but it's not always that straightforward. But, really starting out by being clear and then being able to articulate, okay, I want this, and this is the reasons why I think I'm entitled to those things. And I think that's the thing that we need to spend the time on. So I talk about spending 70% of your time for a negotiation before you even go into the room, getting your case for support straight.
That's interesting. So what does that encompass?
Well, being clear about what are your three outcomes. So your dream outcome, means we get everything. Your ideal outcome, I'll be really happy if I get this. But the most important one is the piece where it's like, I have to walk away at my bottom number. So being clear about those three levels, that means that'll be easy for how to pitch it, and if you stay or if you have to go. And then writing down, if they said this, then I would say that in response. So really thinking about the person that you're negotiating with. What's their drivers? What might their difficulties be back to your case for support? And then just thinking through the whole thing so that you have less stress when you're in the room.
What happens when you get to a point where it's just a flat no? So let's again make this about salary, and you come to the table with a very good record, and you want X dollars, and Y dollars is a bit short, and you've said to yourself all along, I am worth X, that is me. I'm not going to cop Y. I've copped Y for 1,000,000 years. What do you do when you get to that point?
The currency is what's in negotiation then. So if your driver is money, then you need it to be money. But are there other things that are sweetness for that deal? So could it be a car, for example? Can it be training? Can it be extra holidays? Can it be working from home more days? All of the things that make up the construct of a deal that's good for you. But if the answer is a flat no, then perhaps that's not the place for you to stay. And you have to call it and say, oh, I'm sorry, but I'm actually going to go to market and look for something else because this doesn't align with my values.
You also published a book called I Love Negotiating. What makes the two different?
Well, I love negotiating, and I've had the opportunity to do it for lots of different organisations, lots of people, and what worries me is that lots of my friends hated it. And I'm like, you're in big corporate roles, big successful careers, but you still hate negotiating. So I thought there's got to be something wrong with the way that we're approaching it. So what I tried to do in the first book was unpack how do you start to embrace it? How do you find your voice? And I think it was firstly about finding, look inwards and understand how you're made up. Like what style of negotiator are you right now, and where do you want to be? So, for example, my mum, again, bless her, I'm never going to change her mind. I'm never going to get her to love negotiating. So that's her decision to not participate in more negotiations. But for most of us, we consciously decide, right, okay, so you know what, I'm gonna have that conversation today, even if it's about the Thai takeaway. I'm gonna actually say, instead of normally I would say I'm easy with what anybody else wants, actually say, you know what, I really feel like Subway, or I really feel like something, just to get it used to coming out of your mouth that you are saying what you want, and you're not being difficult, and you're not upsetting anybody else by actually just saying what you want. So I think that's a starting point is to look inwards and then look at how people react when we say those things as well.
It's intriguing hearing that, and you're 100% correct. I mean, it's logical. If someone says, what do you feel like? And the answer is actually a cuisine rather than, I don't know, what do you feel like? Which can go back and forth like a game of ping pong forever. So I guess what you'd say is embrace the fact that you've been asked an honest question. Please provide the honest answer rather than a deflection. I guess if we do that more with the day-to-day negotiations we're left to deal with, even though they're probably minuscule in importance compared to some other things, maybe we just get better at it by repetition. Is that right?
Yeah, and the risk is if we're not actually saying what we want. You know, sometimes you don't say what you want, and then later on you had the pizza, and you're like, I didn't really want pizza anyway. So the risk there is that you come away looking passive aggressive. And it's like, well, and I'm sure that you don't mean to be, but that is
No.
it. You didn't contribute to the saying you wanted pizza. We bought pizza, and now you've said I don't want pizza. Like, this is very confusing, and that's when you upset people. So you don't mean to be, but that's the dark side to not actually finding your voice.
Yeah, we've got to find our voice and speak up. Tell me about the other side of the table. That's your business. What do you do?
That's right, yeah. So we help people embrace negotiating. So there's 3 parts to our business: capability building, which is to teach individuals through our coaching programs, and then we do strategy work, so help people grow their business through being part of their team on negotiations, so preparing for the big deals that count. So we come in as a gun for hire. And then the final piece is about advocating change. So I believe that all Australians should be able to negotiate with confidence, and I think that if we can get it on the school curriculum, then we can teach young people who will grow up to be very, very loud and proud negotiators.
Yeah, good stuff. Hey, Sam, great to talk to you. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for your time, Luke. Take care.
Indeed, you too. Negotiate Your Worth, available now in all good bookstores and can be ordered online on othersideofthetable.com.au. Sam Trattles at 21 after 1.